Culture is something that's very big for me. I went through a couple years ago, I went through a culture crisis where our culture had to be completely rebuilt, where we lost a majority of our team due to our own culture and what we had built. And so culture is more than just how you treat your employees and being nice to them. Culture to me comes down to starting all the way from day one when they apply for your position in your company. And what does that experience look like that they're going to go through? How do you make them feel as they're going through that process? Do you make them feel like you actually want them there, or that they're just another number?
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about scaling a specialized company. When you think about your business, are you really specialized? Are you niched? Are you just a generalist? I think the era of specialized companies is really taking effect and having a profound impact on how businesses go to market, how they position themselves, and how they grow. Today's special guest is the founder of Lawnline Marketing. They specialize in lawn care and landscaping marketing, as you can imagine, full service aspects. But we're going to really unpack what a specialized company does and how they operate. That CEO is Tony Ricketts. Tony and I talk about the real inside elements that have to be present. One of them is culture. One of them is the systems, and the other is how AI is playing a role as the company continues to scale. So if you want to scale your company and you're a generalist, you might have some resistance to today's message, and I get it, because it's uncomfortable to narrow yourself down even if you're struggling. But I also invite you to consider a specialized company is someone that understands the ins and outs and the nuance of how to get real results. And when you look at it from a marketing perspective, it takes that to get the impact you want with your business. Now, other businesses are specialized all over the time. My first consulting business wasn't, generalist. It was working in the electric utility industry some 30 years ago. I don't do that work anymore because, I'm an executive coach, and I really have helped a lot of companies figure out how to leverage their business. And I've got probably a dozen or so agencies that I've worked with to help them find their specialized company and help them do that. So if you're curious about that, please reach out to me. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach, specifically a CEO coach. We do executive coaching, we do manager coaching, leadership development for fast growth companies. That's my specialization, helping people tame the chaos of fast growth, help them understand the inflection points of leadership shifts as a company continues to grow, whether it be culture or specifically leading others and developing your MVPs to create more MVPs. And when you have that system in place in your business, you're going to have a much better experience at work. You're going to have much better impact and growth. And we do that for clients. If you are curious about the work that we do, make sure you reach out to me, Gene at Gene Hammett. That's my email. If in that first conversation, I promise not to sell you, but to give you some of the assessments that we have that really will help you grow your business, and it will change everything. I promise you, I've done this for more than a decade, and I'd love to help you, your business. So if you're listening to this voice in the podcast, just say that you heard me on the podcast. You'd like to talk about your business, your leadership, your growth, whatever it may be. And let's talk. Gene at genehammett.com. Now, here's the interview with Tony. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, Gene, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to have an exciting episode today here. Before we dive in, tell us about your company, Lawnline Marketing.
Absolutely. Well, Lawnline Marketing is a full service digital marketing agency that focuses specifically on marketing for larger lawn and landscape companies all across the United States and Canada. We're full service, as I mentioned, so we do website design, SEO, paid advertising, upselling via email and SMS, all kinds of things. Basically, if it's on the internet, we're handling it, and we do it for basically the top 15% of lawn and landscape companies across the US and Canada.
I think we're entering in a new age. I know you've been running this for a while. You've had tremendous success because of the focus on just the lawn care and landscaping type companies. Did it take you some time to find that focus?
A little bit, absolutely. I mean, I spent nearly a decade as a generalist agency, doing all different types of things before I realized I needed to niche down, which comes down to being efficient processes, not having to relearn the same industries over and over. But it also allows you to create that footing, become famous in your industry, right? One of my favorite quotes is, "You don't have to be the best, you have to be the best known." And when you are focused on a small group of people, it's very easy to become the best known compared to when you're trying to target every small business across America.
I totally get it. I used to only work with marketing companies. It's my business and as executive coach has expanded to bigger companies. And so we're looking at really the fast growth because of the chaos they have is a little bit differently than those that don't grow as fast. Tony, you've one of the reasons why I think businesses should be looking for a very industry specific marketing partners because they understand the language, they understand the business models, they understand the nuance to your business. And really, it's not just because they understand you, it's because they understand how to get results. Most general purpose marketing agencies, frankly, absolutely suck at getting results. I see the laugh on your face because I'm not saying you were that person, but
Oh, I live that world.
you know what it's like. You do the project and you're like, okay, it's done, but the ROI is just not there. And with niched agencies, you're much more likely to have people that understand your business, can challenge you, and put a system in place that actually works. And so that when you put in 3,000 a month, 5,000 a month, even 10,000 a month, sometimes you actually get an ROI that you're proud of, and you continue with that company for years to come.
Absolutely. Well, see, there's multiple sides to this coin here, right? So one of the sides is we become a consultative agency. It's not like somebody comes to a generalist agency is like, "Hey, I wanted to build a website. I want you to do these ads for me. I want you to run my social media." That's not how it works with us. With us, a lawn or landscape company comes to us and they're like, "Hey, we're at 5 million right now. We need to get to 10 million. How do we do that?" And then it's our job to take them there. But see, what's beautiful about it, and this is the other side of the coin, is that we manage tens of millions of dollars in ad spend every year, and we know what works and what doesn't work. We're not going to have to
Mhm.
test on your money and try to learn, right? When we've spent over the years probably close to $100 million in advertising, it's easy to look at that data and know what's going to be effective and what's not going to be effective. But that enables us to create predefined programs that we can execute more like a product or an assembly line that we know 80% or more of the time is going to get those results that we're looking for. So we've developed 4 different programs for companies at all different sizes, below 1 million, 1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 10 million, and then 10 million plus. And what we found is working specifically in these individual industries like just lawn and landscape, everybody who is, let's say, at the 1 to 3 million and wants to get to 5 to 10 million, they all need the same things, right? The companies that are at 10 million want to get to 15 million in lawn and landscape industry, they all need the same things. So we can develop those programs and then repeatably execute them. So what that does on the other side of that coin for us as the agency is that creates repeatable, efficient processes. It's not like we are recreating the wheel every time we go to bring on a new client. It's okay, where are you at currently? What are your goals and where do you want to go? Which is going to fit you into this program that's going to get you there. And once you get there, then we have another program that's going to get you to your next level and deliver those things that you need for that. So it makes things far more systematized so that you can scale.
I've lived it. You explained it really well. And the one sentence summary behind it, you've been through and made more mistakes than anyone else in that specific area. So you know how to move forward and get the actual results that a client wants and needs.
Exactly. We dropped the ball more than anybody.
And I tried to convince so many people of that through the speeches. This is much earlier in my career, but I'm glad to see you here succeeding, winning at this thing called business, which is a good segue into our core topic today. Scaling a specialized company isn't always easy, but you've got systems, you've got culture, you've got AI that we're going to kind of go through today. You guys made the Inc. list. Very impressive to make the Inc. list, period. But you guys were number 1687. Is that right? In
No,
2024?
we would have been 200 and I think number 200 something, 230
I
something. I
got
don't
two
remember.
numbers in here, 306 and then
So those are
six.
the last 2 years.
Okay.
306 last year, and then 1600 was the year before.
Okay, that's what it is. It's impressive to make the Inc. list, multiple years because it gets harder. It's a math thing. But let's talk about what got you to this scaling a specialized company. You want to start with systems or culture or AI?
You pick whichever is your favorite, whichever you cover the least.
Let's go with culture first because it's the people that really drive the success of any company. That's
Yep.
my belief.
Yeah, absolutely. So with our culture, we have a mixed employee set. We've got some that are on site in our office in Tampa, and then we've got some that are also remote. And some of our remotes are also outside of the country. Culture is something that's very big for me. I went through a couple years ago. I went through a culture crisis where our culture had to be completely rebuilt, where we lost a majority of our team due to our own culture and what we had built. And so culture is more than just how you treat your employees and being nice to them. Culture to me comes down to starting all the way from day one when they apply for your position in your company. And what does that experience look like that they're going to go through? How do you make them feel as they're going through that process? Do you make them feel like you actually want them there or that they're just another number? One of the things I heard one of my employees say when I used to do the hiring, I heard them say is like, I felt like you saw me when you talked to me. Because in our interviews, I asked them, what are some of your financial goals? What do you want to do in life? Like, where do you want to be outside of Lawnline? And how can I help you get to those goals? I understand that you may not be a lifer here at this company, but I want to help teach you the skills and help you get set on the path that you need to be set on to reach those goals. I mean, I'm almost 40 years old here. Most of the people that I'm hiring in the agency are going to be in their 20s, some of them in their 30s, but they need a little bit of guidance. They may not know exactly what they want, and listening to them and hearing them for who they are really changes their impression of you that you really want to help them, right? And that's what makes them feel good because a lot of these people they're coming into their first or second career job, like actual career jobs, as their big boy jobs, and they're a little lost. They don't know exactly where they're going, and just opening up and letting them tell you about them and what they want to do in their life and what their plans and goals are and how you can assist them, I think really sets the framework for being successful going to the future with them. Now, once you actually get them hired on and they have a good experience with that, then I think the culture goes into how do you introduce them into the team? How do they get started with the company? What does that day one look like? How is your training? How are people's hands on? So one of the things that like we do is every time a new employee starts, I cater lunch to the entire company so that everybody can sit around with them for about an hour at lunchtime. We have icebreaker questions. We learn about them. Everybody goes around the room and introduces themselves, what they do, tells them something unique about them. And it allows people to just be comfortable being the new kid in the class, right? Another thing that I do is every Friday, I also cater lunch to the entire team. So every Friday, the team is breaking bread together. We set up tables outside of our office. We have cornhole boards. We have footballs and frisbees and all kinds of stuff. And it's like every Friday I like to call it recess, right? We have recess every Friday that allows us to break away from the day-to-day grind, eat some food together, relax a bit, have a little bit of fun, and then go back in and work. So it's little things like that that really makes your team feel like you care about them versus having your once a year pizza party. There's a million things I can go into around culture. Other things that we do when somebody doesn't do something right. This is some of the hard, tough conversations that you have, right? So a lot of times, people who are not having those tough conversations will often just sweep it under the rug, allow things to continue to go bad. We have what we call training opportunities, and we frame these that it's all about getting you to the level that we need you to be. And that's exactly what they do. So when something goes wrong, it doesn't matter what it is that goes wrong. What we do is we create a training opportunity for it. And we sit down with the employee and their director and we find what happened, what went wrong. And in many instances, this is our problem. It's not the employee's problem. So let's say something went wrong. We'll sit down with them and they'll say, oh, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do it that way. In almost every instance like that, that is your problem as the business owner that they didn't know exactly what they were supposed to do or how they were supposed to do it. So that exposes training in your holes in your training. It exposes holes in your process. So we sit down and we talk about those things with the employee and document how we can do better to ensure that that employee knows exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. So these training opportunities that most people would think of them as write-ups, right? Somebody's getting written up for doing something wrong. We flip it and talk about how we can help. How did we cause this? And then how can we make it so it doesn't happen again in the future and let that employee give us that feedback. We do employee quarterly surveys that are anonymous every quarter that goes out that gives us our feedback. We do training every morning with our employees. So for the first 15 minutes, an all hands on deck training where we pick two services from our clients and one thing that we do, and we train on that. So let's say, for example, we're going to train on what is lawn fertilization and patio installation, two random services that our clients offer. We go through the do's and don'ts, what you need to know about it, so that all of our team is educated. One of the problems that you'll find when you go into a niche industry like this is you have to learn two industries when you get hired by my agency. You got to learn marketing and you got to learn lawn and landscape. You got to know both sides. So that's why we do these trainings. Also, every morning we choose a piece out of what we do. So we'll pick our lead management systems, or we'll talk about Google Ads, or we'll talk about SEO, or a particular software that we're using. And that way, everybody in the company, regardless of what position you're in, at least has the broad knowledge of here's what all of our clients do in the details, as well as here's what we do, here's what these systems are. So when you're hearing these names, like say I'm a content writer and I'm hearing things like metapixels, I have an idea of what that is. You know what I mean?
Now, earlier in this, Tony said you got to get to know the person. And I absolutely agree with this. A lot of people think business is business and you don't get to know the personal life. But I want you to think about that from another perspective. Those around you that care enough to ask, how you're doing, know what you're struggling with, know what your family's going through, know the stage of life you're in, and understand you, probably get a little bit more of your attention because you feel like they care. Now, what if you could be that person for the people that you're inviting on the mission with you or on this, to get a job? So when I say get personal, I don't mean that you need to, pry into their, relationship life and their sex life and things like that. I just mean give a damn about the person, not just, the job they're supposed to do and the skills and the things like that. Really, talk to them about this. This is for the interviews, but also I think for really helpful when you actually bring them on board and you're developing them and getting to know them and building trust. It helps to know what they're going through. There's so many examples I have, and I think a lot of people confuse what getting personal with your employees is like, but they do want to know that you care, because otherwise they just think they're a cog in the wheel and they just doing a job, getting a paycheck. That's not the experience you want. You want them to feel a sense of ownership, and you want to make sure you treat them in a way that you want to be treated. And that's just my 2 cents on getting personal at work. Back to Tony. A lot of stuff that you just talked about with culture. Really appreciate that. I want to make sure we can get to these other aspects. Creating that scalable, specialized company. I know the value of having the one industry, having a set of services that you offer this industry. Tell me about the systems that really run and make your company successful.
Well, being that we focus on a specific niche is one of the reasons that we can develop systems that make us efficient because we're doing more repeatable things, right? I once heard a quote from somebody that says, if your business requires specialists to scale, then you'll never scale. You have to dumb down all of your processes to be so simplistic that anybody can do it. And that's one thing that we really focus on. And being that we look at lawn and landscape companies specifically, that enables us to put in repeatable systems that are going to work for each of these types of customers that we bring in. So we have our own software that we've developed that we use to manage our agencies day to day that handles everything from communications to billing to task management to website management and all of those types of things. And we've invested into software engineering not only because my background's in software engineering, but that's how you can become efficient, right? A lot of people don't realize in businesses as you grow, your number one cost is your labor, right? So as your labor becomes more efficient, that means there's more money on the bottom line for you, more ability to bring on more volume of clients and all of that type of stuff. So, when I look at, I've got a payroll of say $2 million a year. If I can make my team just 10% more efficient, that's $200,000 in value that can go towards hiring more people, that can go towards increasing our volume, that we can bring on more clients, that can go straight to the bottom line. So efficiencies in software is what allows us to have those efficiencies. So we've done a lot of automation. We try to keep as much human out of it as we possibly can. What I mean by human is when you fire off a new client, let's say, there's all of these things that have to be done, right? We've got to set up their Google Drives. We've got to collect all of their photos and videos. We've got to collect their brand information. We've got to set up them on all these platforms. We have to onboard them and collect the details of their clients or the details of their business. So a lot of that, the majority of that, can all be automated through systems. So even if you don't have custom software like we do, you can utilize project management systems. You can utilize automation systems like Zapier, Make, N8N, and all those types of platforms to really help automate and streamline your process. Why take something where you've got to pay a human, $20, $30, $40 an hour to do when you can automate it with a AI or with programming or with one of these automation platforms and ensure that it's done perfectly right every single time. And I'm not advocating for getting rid of the human. I'm advocating for taking that human and putting them on more valuable work.
Tony was talking about the power of AI as his company is transforming, the investments he's making. And I just wanted to say that, I don't know where you are in your journey, but AI is underhyped, in my opinion. And you want to make sure that you are at least exploring some of these tools and seeing how they work. I think you actually want to be looking at operational excellence first. How do we improve what we're doing now to do it faster, maybe even do it better using AI? And then how does it complement how we serve our clients and things like that? But then you might get to the point where you might look at the other side of AI, where you're actually using this inside your business to make a competitive advantage for you and your markets. And you will have a heads up on all of your competitors if you have embraced AI. My 2 cents. Back to Tony. So we've been talking about how to scale a specialized company. You talked about the culture, you talked about the systems, you even brought in AI without me even prompting you. I also want to take it to just a little bit deeper level. Your leadership matters.
Yes.
I don't care how much technology you put in place. I don't care how much, you're adding people. People are independent thinkers. At least we want them to be. We want them to be creative in your world. And marketing is one of the hardest areas because it changes faster, I think, than technology.
It changes very fast.
What used to work 3 months ago now is like, oh, it doesn't even it's passe, or no, we go a different approach. There are some time-tested marketing principles, but it does change fast. How do you lead through all these changes inside this so that your people are, able to adjust and move quickly as the company has moved?
Absolutely. Well, I think that comes down to the leadership side. That's not something that we put on our everyday employees. They can absolutely go learn on their own and stay up to date, and we highly encourage that. But as far as bringing in what do we need to change as far as our processes to ensure that we're still getting results for our clients, that's something that will typically come down from our leadership team. Our leadership team is our most experienced people in the marketing space. They stay up to date. That's literally their job, is to stay up to date on their specific departments and what's going on in their world, and hiring, firing, training, all those types of things is all the things that they're responsible for. So the way that we implement this type of stuff. So first of all, if there is an idea like, hey, we should try something new, we should do this differently. As an example, one would be that we're changing the way that we're doing our paid advertising from traditional with Google Ads, from traditional CPCs and Max CPCs to moving more into their PMax campaigns. Which everybody hates PMax. Don't get me wrong. We tried it years ago when it came out and it was junk too. But with their addition of the ability to put in all their negative targeting, it's completely changed the game for the PMax. So we've revisited that and we're coming back to it. Well, that comes from people bringing that up to us. It comes from the directors saying, hey, I think we should try this. We take a look at it. We meet every week. We implement EOS in our company. So our leadership team meets every Monday for our L10, and we sit down and we'll say, hey, this idea came up from one of the staff, or maybe one of the directors had the idea. Let's all take a look at it. If this feels like something we should test, let's pick out an account or two that has ample budget. Let's test it with them. If it works, then let's put a process and SOP together for it and then roll it out to the rest of the agency. So that's how we typically handle changes. But one important point that I want to make about how quickly marketing changes is it's not only determined on the technology and the way that Google and Facebook and Chat GPT and Claude and all these platforms where people are now finding businesses on. It's not just them, it's also the economic impact, right? As our economy is changing. That's dramatically changing the marketing world, especially in a niched industry. So let's say, for example, we have lawn and landscape. Landscape is the fancy side, right? That's where people are building patios and swimming pools and outdoor kitchens and spending $100,000, $200,000 in your backyard. How do you think those companies are doing right now in today's economic conditions, right? Not doing great because people who have the money to spend those saw what happened at the beginning of the year and they put all their spending on hold, right? We're going to hang on for a minute. We're not going to spend a ton of money right now. I'm not going to put 200 grand in my backyard when I'm not even sure that my investments are going to stay up at this point, right? So the economics can absolutely impact a marketing agency, especially if you're niche down and that niche is of a luxury service. Luckily, we have the other side of our business, which is lawn. And there are some luxury aspects to lawn. But let's face it, here in America, most people are lazy. They're not out mowing their own yards. They're not out trimming their own plants. And if you live in HOAs, you're forced to do those things. So in lots of parts of the country, the lawn care companies are still thriving. Those are still great. But the landscape companies, they can be hurting a little bit because people aren't spending a ton of money right now in today's economy. But back up, say to COVID, right? When everybody had all kinds of money was coming in, I mean, we couldn't spend the money fast enough that the landscape companies were throwing at us because everybody was buying. So
I have really enjoyed getting to connect with you. We've been talking about scaling a specialized company, and I really appreciate, Tony, your insight and wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Wow, another great interview here on the podcast. I love this concept of specialized companies, and hopefully you got a lot out of it today. You might have felt resistance because you've got to change your business. And I will tell you, it does take a lot of courage to do this, but I've seen it happen many, many times. I've seen it go wrong as well. There's some certain things you want to make sure you stay away from when you narrow your business. You want to make sure it's big enough for you. You want to make sure you're excited enough to be able to solve these deeper problems that you really want to be a guide or a hero to their journey. And that changes everything when you're able to fund that specialized company. So when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, with the courage. We'll see you next time.